This is my 105th video on my work with OO gauge. See part 1 of this series for my reasons for getting into OO gauge when I already had a lot invested in working in N gauge and I didn't really have space available for a large, fully operational OO gauge layout. Also see my lengthy series on my N gauge railway modelling for smaller and more complex scenery and smaller scale trains running. This part is really just a brief addendum to the previous part, where I had a go at adding some embankments and a hill and some static grass to my shelf layout. This is just a follow-up on my attempts to make things look a bit better, and also my initial thoughts on the Dapol motorized track cleaning car. The biggest problem with my initial attempts to my eye was that the edges of the grass patches looked really silly, just sort of ending with sharp edges against the grey shelf as they did. I realised that there were plenty of other shortcomings, but this was what bugged me the most. After the excess was vacuumed away, the grass just ended where the glue had ended, and that made it look not much like a natural patch of grass at all. Having slept on it, I decided that probably the best I could do to improve those edges would be to paint around the edge with some brown paint, and then sprinkle on static grass. I used the static grass that I'd vacuumed up with the model vac after the initial application, and for this process I didn't try to use the static grass applicator at all. I just pinched some grass between finger and thumb and sprinkled it over the brown paint immediately after applying that paint. I went all round the edges of the patches of grass like this, and also did a bit of the same sort of thing between the tracks. I did the part by the window first, as that was easiest to reach, so I could concentrate on seeing how the process worked. Having done that, I went on to do the same thing on the shelf behind my main Hornby layout, as best as I could manage to reach that. I was surprised how much paint and grass this used. I had to refill my little containers several times. After letting the paint dry, I vacuumed off excess grass with the model vac. I was surprised how much the static grass stuck in the paint, far less than I expected got vacuumed away. Next, I ran the Dapol cleaning car over all of the tracks in vacuum mode. So no cleaning discs, no cleaning fluid, just vacuuming up loose stuff on and around the tracks. I only just unpacked this Dapol cleaning car yesterday, so here are my initial impressions. The vacuum mode does work. It actually does pick up quite a bit of stuff from the tracks, especially light stuff such as static grass. Using an abrasive disc with no fluid also works quite well. The effect is quite similar to running the little Hornby cleaning wagon with abrasive pads over the rails, but the disc rotates, so it's probably a bit more aggressive in polishing the rails. The instructions do say not to use the abrasive mode too often, and that makes sense as it's going to tend to remove some metal from the tops of your rails. Now, using the mode with the absorbent disc and cleaning fluid in the tank didn't work at all well for me. I used Woodland Scenic's Tidy Track cleaning solution, as no fluid came with the Dapol wagon and the Tidy Track fluid was what I had. As I say, this didn't work at all well. Essentially, after a bit of running in this mode, I couldn't get the loco to run anymore, it just kept stopping. And when I took off the cleaning train and tried to run another engine, that just kept stopping and wouldn't run properly at all. I was only able to get running on the track to work properly again after extensive cleaning with a Pico track rubber and the Hornby wagon with abrasive pads. After some thought, I suspect what was happening was that there was likely some glue or other material around the edges of the tracks, and the rotating fluid-impregnated disc picked that up, mixed it with the cleaning fluid and smeared it over the rails, thereby destroying contact. Now, if there hadn't been any glue or similar material near my tracks, presumably this wouldn't have happened. But it certainly wasn't a happy experience, and as I say, took a lot of work to recover from, so I'd be a bit nervous about ever running the Dapol wagon with fluid again. This time I just ran it in vacuum mode. As you can see from this picture, after it had run over all the tracks, there was a lot of static grass all over the outside of the Dapol wagon. There wasn't any such grass on the outside of the loco. I assume the action of the motorized vacuuming disc must have caused this, so apparently it not only sucks stuff into the inside of the car, but also blows it around the outside quite a bit. I did have the top properly fitted on the car. I'm not really quite sure whether all that grass on the outside has somehow leaked from the inside, or whether it was just blown around the outside in the first place. There was quite a bit of grass inside the car as well, more than you can see here actually, as there was more stuck up the end by the disc at right in this picture. Here's the area by the window after all the vacuuming. Not great, but better than it was, I think. Here's the other side of the window down towards the corner. And here's the end by the Hornby station. I think it looks a bit more natural, though it could definitely still do with some improvement. I also stuck a bunch of vegetation around the base of the hill to try to make it look more natural and believable. I used the rest of my little self-adhesive tufts and also some Woodland Scenics clump vegetation stuck down with glue. Ah well, I'm afraid my attempts at landscaping this layout are still a bit vague, but I don't think I'm going to do much more for now. I've got kits for 2 signal boxes for this layout, and I think I'll get on to building those next. I picked a couple of kits that I haven't used before, as it's always good to keep trying different things.